2014, which we started off by waking up, we went to breakfast, got ready, and then we were off to see the Very Hungry Caterpillar show at Orlando Shakes. Hooray! My cousin is a very talented stage manager, and that was her show, and that she was stage manager of, and it was just these three amazing actors who were on stage, and they basically made all of these stories come alive with puppets, and it was so amazing and so talented. They're all so talented, and we got to meet them after the show, and they were so kind, and we got to experience the show. We were probably the only adults, and then everyone else was, they brought in a bunch of children's classes, preschools, and I think one was a first grade class, and then on the other side of us was a homeschool group, and it was just adorable to see all the kids interacting with this adorable show. And then, so after the show, we waited for a little bit, and then we went with my cousin and her husband to get some lunch at a place called Chey's. It was very good. I had a taco salad there, and it was very fun. After that, we went to the Mennello Sculpture Garden, which is across the street from Orlando Shakes Theater, and it was very cool. They have not only an outdoor sculpture garden, but they also have, the outdoor sculpture garden is free, by the way. You can just walk around and stuff, and then they also have the Mennello Museum, which has a bunch of art and beautiful things. We didn't go inside the actual museum, but we did walk around the sculpture garden for a little bit. And that's when some of the problems started. I did have to do a little bit of research on this, but in Florida, there are a bunch of trees called living oaks, and they're living southern oaks specifically. They're usually on the southern part of the United States and then on the East Coast. So they're like southeast based trees. Well, this specific oak tree, I don't know if it was this specific oak tree or the entire species is endangered, or not endangered, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a more rare tree, and so they want to protect it as much as possible. And the specific tree was over 100 years old and had been on the property for over 100 years. And I took a video of the tree, and I got really close, and I was underneath the tree, and then I can only describe this as it was almost as if my body was going into anaphylaxis, because like I felt, it wasn't like any panic attack it wasn't a panic attack, it was not an asthma attack. I've had both of those and I know what they feel like. Those were not this. I literally felt like my throat was closing, and thankfully it didn't, because I don't have an EpiPen. How do I describe this? So, I mean, my throat was feeling, it was okay. It wasn't right away. It took a little bit to take hold, but in the meantime, I was feeling fine when we left the museum, and then we went to the New Romantics bookstore in Orlando, Florida. If you have not seen their TikToks, this store is absolutely beautiful. It is a female-owned bookstore that they only sell romance books, and they have them sorted by genre, and I took a clip from inside, so I'm going to show that here. as you can see, it is a beautiful bookstore, and I spent so much money because I love those, I love romance books so much, and of course I wanted to support a small business as much as I can. They also have a section in which they sell Orlando authors, which, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Like, they're self-published Orlando authors in that bookstore, and it's so amazing. And I love it so much. And then of course, what else was after that? Oh, yes. And then of course we went to, what was it called? Hold on. Oh, Drunken Monkey. It was called the Drunken, was it called the Drunken? Yes, it was called the Drunken Monkey. So, the Drunken Monkey is a coffee shop in Orlando, and I was turned on to it by, I think it was a single TikTok post, and I was like, oh, what's this? What's it? And they sell gluten-free baked goods in their store, and they also have, it's another small business. It's a one-off store, and I don't know what I was expecting, but when I walked in, I was like, the universe had guided me to this coffee shop. Because when you think Drunken Monkey, you're like, oh, it's a dive bar, or, nope, it's a coffee shop. It is a coffee shop with like this grungy, gothic, witchy energy that I, like, the tiles on the roof were gothic and red, and then there was just, I don't know how to explain it because it is just, I wish I had taken a footage of inside because it was just, if I could create a coffee shop, that's what I would make. Like, it was so cozy, even though it was 95 degrees outside. And I don't know how they did it, but it was just like, it was so cool. And I'm like, I need to move here because this is so cool. To be around these cool places, and I'm like, I need to find a spot like that in my hometown and go visit there all the time. So we got a hot chocolate, which helped at that point my throat was starting to hurt. It was about a half an hour after the tree. The hot chocolate did help, but the rest of the night, it got worse and worse and worse. And we stayed back in the hotel for the rest of the night. We got dinner out to eat because we were just exhausted. And, what else? I was just feeling worse, and as the night progressed on, I laid in bed and I had my DVD player with me, and I just watched Beetlejuice 1 and Beetlejuice 2, and I tried really, I was drinking so much water, but every time I would swallow, it would just hurt, and I had Chipotle again for dinner, but the pain wasn't going away, and so my mom, the next morning I wake up and it is like, I wake up and I immediately am in so much pain. My body is in pain. My throat is like, breathing is now, like I'm breathing in and I feel like I have swallowed, like there's shards and it's just scraping. We go to and she's like, I'm taking you to a Ready-Med. And I'm like, okay. And little tip, if you are ever out of state, but it is not cheap. I don't know what kind of insurance you guys have, but it is out of state insurance is not really, it's the specific type of insurance we had, let's just say it didn't, there was very few places that was going to take it. And, or because we were out of state, they were also, it was just expensive. We were denied at the Ready Med because they were like, you can pay out of pocket, but it's going to be over $500 just to be seen, not even for the tests. And we were like, ooh. And then they said, or you can go to this place. I know that they take your insurance. And I was like, okay. So my mom was like, okay, we're going there. And it was in ER. We were very lucky. They took me back right away. And at this point I started having a bit of a panic attack because I couldn't breathe. And I was getting that kind of confusion that you get when if you've ever had asthma, then you'll understand this. But if you haven't, it's sort of, you feel like your brain isn't functioning properly because you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. You feel like you're breathing normal, or you feel like your breathing is labored, and it's just like you're taking too long to think of words. And you can feel that you're taking too long because the pause is just, and the word you're thinking of is like walking or talking, or it's like it should be something that you're getting to quickly. And it was very scary. And also she was like, oh, we're going to take your height and your weight, and we're going to do all this, and then we're also going to walk down this hall. And for me, I was like, it was just a very scary experience. It's been years since I've been in an ER for me. And then, also I wish I had, she said, do you need a wheelchair? And I said no. And I wish I had, because I knew that was just me being stubborn and me being like, oh, I can do it. And I was like, sometimes you just need to take the help and be like, I kind of hurts to walk. They kind of, so she takes me back. The nurse is very nice. She takes me back and she immediately puts on, they get working on me right away, and they're like, oh, is this information correct? And they put a bracelet on me, and then they also put on a blood pressure cuff. And it was because of, I don't cry, let me make this clear, I don't cry in front of people. The only people I cry in front of is my mom and my pet, and that's it. Like, I don't openly cry to people, and it's not because I'm like, oh, I'm ashamed, or, oh, I'm not a pretty crier. I'm not a pretty crier. But it's because, it's just because I don't. I usually like to process those things alone. I don't like processing them in a group, that kind of thing. But at this moment, and never, usually my panic attacks are me breathing, or having, breathing, but this time it was in the form of, I was crying, and I was just like, also she put the blood pressure cuff on my arm, like, extremely tight, and it usually for me it hurts. I know it's supposed to hurt. I know it's supposed to hurt, but it, in this case, was extremely painful. It was so tight on my arm that when it started to squeeze, I was losing complete feeling in my hands and arms. Or arm, just the one arm. And it, yeah, and I was crying, and I was saying it hurts, and they were like, oh, it's just, one more, and then it will let go, and you will be able to take it off. And I was like, okay, and I was like, just, and then the doctor came in at the same time. I was crying, and I was like, it hurts, and I was like, my mom was like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm a 22-year-old crying in an emergency room because my blood pressure cuff hurts. And I'm like, oh my God. Ugh. Looking back, I know they've probably seen multiple people cry, and I'm not the first person, nor will I be the last person to cry in an emergency room. But at that moment, I was just like, I don't feel good. And, yeah. So, they did some swabs, they had me give a urine sample, they did all this stuff, and they were like, oh, we're also going to swab you for COVID. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a normal thing now, since the plague. And so they come back 5 minutes later, and the nurse is wearing a mask, and a few minutes later, and the nurse is wearing a mask, and she said, oh, good, no worries, it's just COVID. And I was like, this fast? And she was like, it may have been you had an allergic reaction from the tree, and through that allergen, it sped up the process of the COVID. It sped up like and then the doctor was also explaining this, and he said, have you been a place with a lot of people? And I said, yeah, we've been walking around Disney for 4 days. And then also been doing a bunch of other things. And he's like, yeah, you could have gotten it anywhere. And I'm like, okay. So, and I'm sitting in the car, and we're done, and we're getting discharged, and in the car going, and across the street was a Starbucks. So we just went over and got like an egg bite. Me and my mom get one order, and we each have an egg bite. The bacon and Gruyere ones are our favorite. And we then get just a water. And I'm like, I feel like I should say sorry, even though I know it's not my fault. And she's like, you are right. You have nothing to be sorry for. It's not your fault. You didn't intentionally get sick. And I'm like, yeah, because at that point, we still had 4 more days. It was supposed to be an 18-day trip. And we basically made a decision together. We were like, we made a decision. We sat down with my dad when we got back home, and we were like, hey, here are the options. We can either stay here for the rest of the 4 days, and you can get worse. Because at that point, a few days later, I would have had, my nose would have been running. I would have had the sinuses come in, and also the medication that they gave me at the ER, they gave me one thing that numbed my throat, which was very appreciated, and then they gave me some Benadryl, and they said, oh, we're also sending in an order for you to just get some ibuprofen. And I was like, oh, I don't need the ibuprofen. You can just get Advil over the counter. And where was I? Oh, so we can either stay in the hotel room, and you're probably going to get worse before you get better, and then we can travel home, but you're probably going to be worse when we travel home in 4 days, and you're also going to be just confined to the hotel room as would be my parents, or we could leave that night. And I was like, oh. Realistically, and I knew, I was like, realistically, it is better if we go now. And I'm like, okay. So we pack up, because we weren't intending on leaving for another 4 days. So we pack up our things, and we go, and we get driving, and yeah, so we make it the first night. We leave before rush hour. Make it to, where did we make it to? We made it to the edge of Alabama. No. Edge of Georgia. Yes, edge of Georgia, Alabama. I can't remember. We either stopped in Georgia or Alabama. It was 2 a.m. We got up at like a few hours later at like 10. Not enough sleep, especially for me who was very sick. And we got back on the road. And at that point I was feeling miserable, and what didn't help was the shower, all of the water in the hotel was shut off because they were fixing the pipes. So I didn't even get a chance to like take a warm shower before we left or anything, and so we just left. At this point I'm feeling a lot worse, and I look and I feel worse. Some of the meds are starting to wear off, and we get home around, we're very fortunate, we get home around 2 or 3 in the morning, and I proceed to make my bed, take the hottest shower ever, and knock out. And it was very good. We got home, and that is it. But I kind of wanted to come on and end this because I knew that this would be very confusing. You'd be like, hey, what happened to the rest of your vacation things? And so that was the end of my vacation. I had to come home early because I was sick, and then fortunately we came home when we did because a day after we got home, my mom got sick, and we were able to both be in our beds, and we were able to both have all of our medications that we usually have, and all of our cough drops, and all of the other things that we have at our disposal. And so that's basically it. That was the end of the vacation. I mean, I'm happy. In conclusion, we had an amazing time on my graduation vacation. And am I sad it ended because of sickness? Yes, of course. Am I happy that we got to see as much as we did? Of course. It was amazing. I learned so much about what to bring in Disney, what you definitely don't need to bring in Disney, and everything in between. Also learned some spots that we will definitely go back to when we go to Florida again for a vacation. Hopefully, I don't think it'll be next year. I don't think it'll be in 2026. That's what I mean. Maybe in 2027, fingers crossed, if we start saving now. Other than that, that's just it. I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I'll definitely turn on the camera again if I think of something else, but that is it. And this has been the end of my college graduation vacation trip. And thank you guys so much for following along. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, bye.